How's it going, everyone? This is your Pittsburgh realtor, Tim Roberts here. And for today's video, I feel like I'm finally qualified to speak on this topic, and that is the good and bad things about living in Pittsburgh. So I'm not originally from here. I've only been living here about a year and a half now, but I have seen all 4 seasons and I've seen pretty much every corner of the city. There's still plenty of restaurants and things that I still want to check out, but as for driving around in all the different neighborhoods and everything, I've pretty much seen it all. Let's start off with the good first. First of all, I'd say there's plenty to do depending on what you're into. Asking a lot of people around here, it's kind of hit or miss. It's like 50-50. Some people say there's nothing to do. Some people say there's a lot to do, but I think there's a lot to do. If you just have some sort of hobby or something. I mean, me personally, what I like to do is skateboarding, snowboarding, going to different parks, flying my drones and stuff. I don't drink or anything, so I can't really comment on that, but I do know that there's several breweries and tons of bars and nightlife here. As well as there's some pretty big concerts that come here. Obviously not all of them, but there's a lot of big artists that come here for concerts. Next, I'd say it's actually a pretty beautiful city. It's a very old city. A lot of the houses here are very, very old. The house that I'm in right now, this was built in 1919, so it's about 104 years old. It's pretty old, but it's a beautiful city. There's lots of brick. It's got a pretty unique landscape in that there's the 2 rivers, the Allegheny and the Monongahela River. They come down together and they form the Ohio River. But then along those 2 rivers, it's kind of like the downtown of Pittsburgh it's in a little valley. And so when you're on like pretty much any hilltop in any corner of the city, there's some really nice views. And third, I'd say, at least for now, who knows about in the future, but as of right now, it's relatively affordable compared to most of the country. I grew up in Florida, and that's part of the reason why I'm not living there right now. I don't think I could afford to live where I used to live in Tampa. And even though I say it's affordable, of course there's expensive areas and there's cheap areas. A lot of times, if you're not familiar with the city, you probably don't want to go to the absolute cheapest area in town. There's a pretty good range here. There's definitely luxury apartments and there's definitely some hole-in-the-wall places that you might not want to rent at. Moving over to the bad things, I would say one of the bad things here is driving. When I say that, some people might say, oh, it's not even that big of a city, like your traffic isn't as bad as New York or it's not as bad as Chicago, but depending on the time of day, it can get pretty bad. And like I was saying, how Pittsburgh is kind of like tucked in between the 2 valleys. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of bridges here. I looked up online. I think there's over 300 bridges here in Pittsburgh. And with the bridges and the tunnels, first of all, that's part of what makes Pittsburgh beautiful. But during rush hour, those are definitely some choke points, and it can make the traffic pretty bad. And on top of that, because of all the hills, there's a lot of narrow, windy roads, and sometimes, actually, I'm thinking about making a separate video just about driving in Pittsburgh, because I'd like for you guys to see what it's actually like driving. But there's some roads where there's pretty much only enough space for 1 car to get through, but there's people parked on both sides of the street and it's still a 2-way. So if someone comes, one person's gonna have to like back out and find a different way, or it can get kind of confusing. Next, for the bad things, I would say, especially once again, because I'm from Florida, a lot of the times it's very dark and cloudy here. Of course, not all the time. For example, in the summertime, in the fall time, there's a lot of beautiful days where it's nice and sunny outside. But I did read online somewhere that Pittsburgh gets about as much rain and clouds as they do over in Seattle. So that's one thing to be aware of. Definitely here in the winter time, you might want to take some vitamin D supplements or something if you're not used to it. And lastly, I'd say for the bad things, it's a little far from other major cities. It still does have the Pittsburgh International Airport, but it's a little far, but it's also not that far at the same time. It's about 5 hours to Toronto. I think it's about 5 or 6 hours to New York. I think about 4 hours to Philly. I did drive to Chicago relatively recently. That was about 7 hours. And actually I drove down to Florida too, and that was about 16 hours. It's definitely drivable and 100% flyable to other major cities, but it is over here close to the mountains on the complete west side of Pennsylvania. Of course, this is by no means an exhaustive list of the good and bad things about living in Pittsburgh. These are just a few things that I came up with and I wanted to tell you guys. So anyways, I am going to be a lot more active on this YouTube channel in the next coming months. So be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below if there's any particular part of the city that you want me to do a video about. I'm planning on doing house tours, neighborhood tours, and maybe showcasing some of the restaurants and places that I like to go to here. And if you're looking to buy or sell in Pittsburgh, definitely reach out and let's see if there's any way that I can help you. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.